Welcome back. We're going to jump into segment 2 of chapter 2, and we're going to continue to talk about the leader traits. This one we're going to start off with, it's called self and other awareness. And leaders, they talk about to be aware of themselves and others, and it's understanding of one's own beliefs, emotions, values, strengths, and weaknesses. But it's also to recognize other strengths and motivations, desires, fears, and self-doubts, because as you're in a position of being a leader, you are going to, or at least you should, continue to mentor and support and motivate and challenge and be there for not only your next line of management that reports to you, but all the individual contributors. One of the things that I find as as successful as most of the leadership type skills is, and we talked about it in chapter 1, was getting out and walking around, be seen, be interactive, be available. And likewise, if you're in a position where you've got an office or your manager that has one of those, I call them a shower door type cubicle, one of the little cubicles that has a sliding door on it, always, and I've always taken the approach that unless I'm on a conference call or unless I'm on a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or something, I always keep my door open. I've always had an open door policy, willing to talk to anybody about anything at any given time. And not only that, but when you're talking about your self traits, I've always been one of those individuals that if the work day is 8 to 5, I'm there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm there till 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, because I've found over time that kind of in that 7 to 8 o'clock, 7 to 8:30 time slot, not only is it an opportunity to get your day coordinated and planned out and some time for self-reflection, but it also is an opportunity. You will have individuals, if they understand you're going to be there early, they will come in and sit down and just seek guidance. Just, they want somebody just to talk to and discuss things that they see happening at work, and discuss things that they may see as an opportunity to improve things at work. So you want to be an individual that not only has an understanding of your traits, but also an understanding of the traits of your followers. And the book talks about self-awareness may be the most important trait for a leader. I think academics over time have argued this. You've got those that agree with it. You've got those that disagree with it. And I think that at the end of the day, it is an important trait. Is it the most important? I don't know about that, but I think it's going to be right up there toward the top. And under this self and other awareness, you have what's called emotional intelligence. And managers are task oriented, as we talked about before. They're driven by efficient processes. They like policies and procedures. They like status quo. They like to if they throw out that term, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we talked about that in chapter 1. But while they are driven by these efficient processes, leaders embrace and harness emotions. You've got kind of the two tails on the distribution. You got your positive and your negative emotions. Positive like joy and excitement and enthusiasm, especially when you've got a new set of goals that you're working on, or you've got the opportunity for a new project, and in the back of your mind that it may be difficult to meet those stretch goals, or it's going to be a project that, while it's going to take a significant amount of effort, it's going to be great for your team or great for the company as a whole. And, then you have these leaders, and I've actually, unfortunately, worked for some in the past that are more on the negative emotion side, where, not so much sadness, but they're always fearful of not being able to hit their goals, or anxious. And when a team doesn't make their goal, then it's more anger and retaliation and resentment. So you as a leader, you want to have positive emotions, because positive emotions are contagious. Positive emotions develop that atmosphere that will help a team be successful moving forward. And one of the things I like about this book is they had the little chart, the little graph in there, and it's talking about focus on self or focus on others. And as far as the awareness, if you're focusing on yourself, it's self-awareness. If you're focusing on others, it's what they call social awareness. And actions taken, if it's focus on self, you're going to be, it's self-management. You're trying to manage your own emotions. You're trying to manage your own awareness and how you come across, and what your emotions and what emotions you actually roll out to your teams to help everybody be successful. If it's focus on others, then you're building relationships, personal relationships, professional relationships. What I've found in the past that most of my stops along the way is developing these, I'll call them, even though it's not relationship management in the terms of managing the relationships with those on your team, but managing relationships among other functional areas within the company. In health plan, and I've spent the last 12, 13 years in payment integrity. And what you find in payment integrity, and that is the definition of payment integrity is just you want to ensure that the healthcare claim pays correctly the first time, every time it flows through the system. And if it pays incorrectly, you want to work with the provider community to either take money back or give them additional money to ensure that that claim processes correctly. And what you find over time, or what I've found over time, especially in a healthcare arena, is you want to build effective relationships with legal and with IT and the operational side of the house and network management and medical management. And as long as you can manage those relationships among others within your team and outside your team, it makes it a lot easier to meet goals, especially your stretch goals. And so we're going to move now from self and other awareness to kind of they call it a basic needs profile. And they talk about leaders, and there isn't, some leaders, there is a need for achievement. They desire to accomplish, achieve mastery, obtain individual recognition. And I think for a leader, you want to master whatever skill that you have as a responsibility for your team. You have that desire to accomplish, especially desires to accomplish stretch goals. And I think you want at least a moderate level of that. What you don't want to get into, and I definitely have worked for some senior managers in the past, that where you talk about, they refuse to share recognition with anybody else. They refuse to share or sell team achievements. I worked for an individual in one of the stops, and it was it was a for-profit company, and you had the opportunity for options on, it was, stock trading. You had options as part of your benefit, but that individual did not allow anybody that worked for him to receive options on the stock because he felt like he did it all himself. And so he would take and keep all the options to himself, and individuals that worked for him or worked on the team didn't get to participate in the option program. And I've also had individuals that, and they, laughingly, they called him Mr. Teflon, because never accepted responsibility. If there was a mistake, it was always somebody else's fault. If we were successful, man, it was he was the one that led us down the road to success. And if it hadn't been for him, the team would have never been successful. And again, they call him Mr. Teflon because nothing ever stuck. I mean, it just like slid off, especially if there were an issue with whether we didn't hit our goals or not. It was never his responsibility. So when you talk about, need for achievement, I think, a moderate level is probably best. And then they talk for a few minutes about need for affiliation. And it's relationships while avoiding conflict. And again, it goes back to relationship, or to me, it goes back to relationship management, especially among functional areas within any given company. The more you can manage those relationships, the easier it is to especially get buy-in from other functional areas within the company. And if you manage relationships within your team, it's easier to get buy-in on your team, especially if that stretch goal is going to be extremely difficult to attain. They do talk about that some leaders have a professional relationship with their team. Some leaders have a personal relationship with their team. And they talk about liking followers too much may be a bigger problem than, liking them too little. And managing people, it's say in the book, it's not a popularity contest. You are trying to manage a team, trying to motivate and mentor a team so that you hit your goals, so that everybody on that team is successful. And one of the things, and I've had a couple of managers that I've worked with in the past. One individual, actually a couple of them, constantly complained about the goals that we set each year, constantly complained about the stretch goals. All they were concerned with was that everybody on their team was happy. They didn't want to manage anybody, didn't want to have any confrontation, didn't want to have to write people up if they were not producing at a certain level. To them, they wanted to hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and go home happy at the end of the day. And while a successful leader needs some of that, you still have to have a team while they're emotionally happy and emotionally satisfied. Everybody still needs to understand we have to meet our goals. The goals have to be met. That's why we're being paid a salary, and we have to meet the goals. And then they talk about, the need for power, influence and control of others. And you've got personal, influence. You've got socialized influence. If it's personalized power, it's all about the leader. And it tends to develop a lack of trust among the followers. If it's socialized power and socialized control, it garners power for the team. And one of the things that I found, successful in the past is as you start to tie all of these different approaches together, is you want to be able to take, and as you train and mentor and motivate not only your middle line of management, but all of your followers, you want to be able to take and share responsibility. You want to be able to empower individuals. You want to be able to share the wealth, share recognition. I've found that one of the best ways to help individuals, especially those that want to move up the corporate ladder in the leadership department, is to give them opportunities to lead projects on their own. Give them the opportunity to develop the leadership skills. And if they make a few mistakes, that's okay. It's part of the learning process, but give them the opportunity. And especially when it comes to a difficult project that they have invested in and worked hard in it, let them do the presentation, especially the senior management. It gets them out there, gets some notoriety, and gives them the opportunity to stand up and speak and explain themselves and develop those leadership traits and leadership characteristics that it's talking about here in the text. And then when it's all said and done, when we're talking about this piece of the leadership traits, I think it boils down to a great leader. They kind of distill it down to a moderate need for achievement, a moderate need for affiliation, but a strong need for socialized power. I think that's where the text is heading, or the book is heading, is socialized power by garnering power for the team is going to be one of the most important things that you can do as a leader, is to help bring the team together, garner power for that team, and allow the team members to gain the notoriety from success of the team, and to get them some exposure within other areas of the company. And then it jumps into character, and it talks about character's moral excellence and firmness on the part of leaders. And they talk about integrity, and they talk about walking the talk, and it's, integrity, it's commission and omission. Commission is words match the actions. Omission is maybe not telling the whole truth, leaving out some of the facts of the situation. And I think here's where they were talking about getting information out to people, and where they were talking about genuine and authentic, and they don't want a leader to be fake, but to be yourselves. And sometimes, and I have seen it too, and they mention in the book that once somebody slides into a management role, or even up the ladder to a leadership role, so I've seen it go from supervisor to manager to senior manager to leader or director, and you see people change. It's almost like they get that new title, and it's like they flip a switch, and they think all of a sudden they have to match everything that they have seen in these leadership seminars, and they've read the self-help books, and they've listened to the videos on YouTube about how to be a great leader. And all of a sudden they try to cookie cutter that and change their demeanor. So now they aren't authentic. They're not themselves. And followers pick up on that in a hurry. And followers tend to lose respect for leaders if they're not authentic. One of the other things that they talk about on character is internal accountability. And that's where it goes back to Mr. Teflon that I was talking about. No internal accountability. Individuals, especially government leaders, they, at least my perception among a lot of government leaders, is they don't accept accountability. They blame others for their failures. It's never their problem. It's so-and-so's problem, or it's the environment, or it's the market that they're working in. They don't want to take any kind of personal responsibility, especially they don't really like to make decisions. But if they're forced and backed into a corner and have to make a decision and it goes south on them, they want to wash their hands of it. They want to go back to like Mr. Teflon, and nothing sticks to me. Yeah, I made that decision, but it wasn't my problem. It was somebody else's problem. That's where it goes back to that external locus of control. So just keep in mind all of these as you move forward on the leadership scale, and how you start to develop your leadership traits. And I think I'm going to stop there. That's going to kind of wind us up on this second segment. And we'll start the third segment when I come back, and it's talking about complexity and paradoxical nature. And it gets into a lot of things that, I don't know, things that I didn't actually think about, or had maybe a few issues connecting the dots until I started reading the text. And as I read the text and started making notes for the video, it's all starting to come together. Things that I hadn't thought about in the past, or the reason things happen for a reason in the past. And this complexity and paradoxical nature, it's starting to bring some of that together. So I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll jump into segment 3. Talk to you soon.